Hey everyone, sure everyone's still dealing with the fallout of the elections. Whether you're talking with your friends, your family, your coworkers, or at this point in time, not talking to them at all, ignoring each other, avoiding them like the plague, right? That's the problem with this kind of division, which, yes, the establishment media and the entrenched ruling class, they're desperate to maintain their positions of power, and they realize the best way to maintain that is to divide the people, divide the population, because, well, hey, it's a tried and true tactic. I mean, come on, can you blame these authoritarian collectivists for turning and pivoting to a tactic that's almost as old as humanity itself? Divide and conquer works, folks, whether you're talking about a military conflict or a political propaganda or a campaign war. In terms of manipulating the minds of the masses, the entrenched ruling class, in combination with their media mouthpieces and counterparts, played that card in spades, pardon the pun. Yes, these things will work in the short term, and it did work in terms of affecting the election outcome in this country. But once again, these people, these pundits, these politicians, those who represent the ruling class, they seem to be short-minded and unwilling to think about the long-term perspective or potential outcome of maintaining constant hatred and division. There will be a backlash, folks. The media mouthpieces have tried their best to lay political cover for the ruling establishment, well, because they're basically two sides of the same coin, right? But once again, all they're doing is showing more and more people what their true intentions are. And astute observers are definitely taking notice and paying attention. Headline of the Financial Post, Dianne Francis, Canadians voted for a bunch of hypocritical greenies and their naive suicidal platform. Voters who want to make a real impact should turn off all air conditioning, stop having children, downsize, sell their vehicles, and lower their thermostats. It's being reported by Dianne Francis, October 28, 2019. 65.6% of the Canadian electorate voted for the Liberals, NDP, Greens, the Bloc Québécois, and their naive suicidal platforms. None proposed a viable job creation or economic growth roadmap. They were all about taxing and spending. Ergo, nearly two-thirds of Canadians voted for free root canals or free daycare or free pharmaceuticals or free college. And 7.7% voted for the Bloc or to get more free stuff for Quebec. This is a nation that thinks like a bunch of trust fund kids who despoil the environment more than our parents or grandparents did and believe the world owes them a living. The poster boy was Canada's most prominent trust funder, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who flitted around in two fuel-guzzling aircraft during his election campaign while endlessly repeating the mantra, climate change. Hypocrites do what hypocrites do. And nearly two-thirds fell for it. He and the Liberal climate change cohorts, the NDP and Greens, claimed that Canada would lead the world in averting the impending ecological Armageddon by simply declaring war against its principal wealth creation sectors, resources, and auto manufacturing. Even if one is sympathetic to the need to transition from the old to the new economy, there's not a single entrepreneur, technology maven, scientist, or innovator among the ranks of the tax and spenders to lead us to their promised land. Their culprit is oil and pipelines. But if serious, their platforms should have taxed anyone occupying more than 500 square feet of living space. Those who drive, fly, and consume more goods and resources, as Canadians do, than do most of the world's residents. Instead, Canadians voted for leaders who promised to save the planet but allow them to continue to commute long distances along asphalt highways, drive SUVs, fly south, drink water out of plastic bottles, are addicted to electronic devices that consume huge amounts of electricity, live and work in oversized and air-conditioned premises, eat packaged foods, use paper cuts and towels, and pack landfill sites with manufactured goods shipped halfway around the world only to be prematurely discarded. The surging demand in monster houses, empty condos built in Canada for money laundering purposes, the dominance of SUVs, and mass immigration to high consumption Canada from low consumption countries more than cancels out any environmental benefit from electric cars or renewables or Trudeau's foolish carbon tax. The fact is, the world and Canadian oil demand, like gasoline guzzlers and population, will be on the rise for years to come. Voters who want to make a real impact should turn off all air conditioning, plug their leaky houses, stop having children, downsize, sell their vehicles, walk and use public transport, and lower their thermostats and wear sweaters. Instead, they vote for a privileged prime minister who claims Canadians voted for climate change concerns in campaigns with 2 jets and others who don't walk the talk. Real environmentalists would have video conferenced their campaigns and distributed their propaganda by email, not through paper posters, billboards, and pamphlets. Their hypocrisy was unchallenged by a mostly biased press because the Green Brigade has captured Canada's public policy space. The Greenies run without policies to dramatically reduce demand for resources and run without concern about creating jobs, exports, or economic growth. They scapegoat Alberta and Saskatchewan as if oil supply is the problem, not demand. And Canada's hypocrites lapped it up and spat out support for thoroughly unworthy parties. But there is one climate change the minority Liberal government will create if it fails to lift restrictions on resources and the TMX pipeline. Winter will come for Canada as a united, prosperous nation. Anyways, folks, as you can see, or hear I should say, well, both. It's a video, right? But anyways, that's a great article by Diane Francis, and it's basically just acknowledging and pointing out with clarity and well written and articulated, I'll add, the very real fact that, yeah, come on. I mean, these people, like, who are the, even with Greta? I mean, oh, dear Greta, our dear teen leader, or not ours, I guess the greenies, the environmentalists, the cultish types that fall for that kind of nonsense, right? I mean, come on, none of these people are doing anything to actually stop their own carbon or reduce their carbon footprint. No, I mean, not even that voyage across the Atlantic. I mean, first of all, it's on a big old yacht, a sailboat, right? Like, come on. I mean, come on. These are people that come from tremendous means, and these are not people that are living off in the woods with their moccasins on, right? And not leaving any carbon footprint. That was a publicity stunt. And everyone knows at this point in time, and the people that are paying attention know intrinsically, but although the rest of them, the environmentalists, the greenies, the leftists, they want to deny this. But yeah, even though she pretended that she was trying to save the environment but by going across the ocean with a sailboat, well, as we all learned subsequent to that, you got to get that boat back across there. You got to get all the crew back. Actually, and the plane travel, actually, that was the other aspect, the plane travel. If she got on a plane, like one of these big Boeings, let's say, or Airbuses, or any of these big gigantic planes, her carbon footprint would have been much, much smaller because it's spread out over hundreds of people. So the efficiency thing, right? But yet the spectacle was for her and a few people to get praise and applause for sailing the big gigantic sailboat across the Atlantic Ocean. Like, I mean, a lot of people would pay dearly to be so lucky, to be so entitled to be able to do such a thing, right? But once again, these people can live a life with much, much higher carbon footprints than most average people can, and yet they get praised or applauded. Why? Because they got the media in their back pocket and opportunist politicians on that left side of the spectrum who will go along because they recognize that, hey, it's in their favor. It's in their benefit to do so. These are opportunists and hypocrites. And people should be holding these people to task or responsible for their own carbon footprints rather than just yielding or conforming to their political propaganda or campaigns, or stunts, I should say. Like I say, for those of you out there who are these lefties, these greenies, these environmentalists, lead by example. Let me see you be the first to put down your cell phone, to leave your big luxurious mansion or home, oversized home I'll add in Canada, head off into the woods, build yourself a little log cabin, although I suppose you might complain that you might have to cut down some trees to do so, right? So anyways, like I say, these people are the biggest hypocrites on the planet, and it's a sad reality that most of the people in the media, or pretty much everyone in the media, well, I shouldn't say everyone, I guess, yeah, let's get back to the most, because not everyone, there are a few people, such as Diane Francis here, but most of the people who represent the media, most of the thought leaders or opinion makers in this country, aren't even willing to acknowledge the reality that surrounds them, which should at the very least tell you where they at in terms of their genuine morality or their thinking skills. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.